Hello, I want to talk about the next strategy for African development being regional integration. If African leaders are able to come together and their various integration bodies are able to work together to bring African countries together, then the idea is that there will be some development. After all, united we stand, divided we fall. Kwame Nkrumah got to know about this long time ago, and that's how come he spent a lot of Ghana's resources in fighting for Africa to unite. Okay, that's why he said that the independence of Africa, of Ghana, is meaningless until it is linked to the total liberation of Africa. And so he was thinking that we must unite, and unity, that kind of integration amongst ourselves, was going to be a powerful developmental strategy, and that will help Africa fight the quagmires of poverty and underdevelopment. And so if you look at the European Union coming together of various EU countries, I mean, it makes them a very powerful bloc in world affairs and in seeking to protect themselves and in developing Europe as a continent, as a whole. And so it is very important that Africa integrate. It is very important that integration is seen as a powerful strategy for African development. Generally, if you talk about integration, you are talking about a process in which states enter into some regional agreement in order to enhance some regional cooperation among them through some institutions or regional institutions and rules. Now, the idea is that when you are able to integrate, it will provide a sort of collective bargaining and strength for the integrative bodies or the African countries that come together in the international system, and then also help them to present a united front in their UN deliberations, so that they can be a force to reckon with and they can fight against their own marginalization. Integration is also an idea that would create a larger market for African products, so that individual African states may become rich and prosperous. Integration would also promote specialization and division of labor, since African countries would now have to specialize in the production of different or special primary products, focus on different primary products rather than one country producing different primary products and then another country producing different primary products, and then so that you overproduce these on the world markets to force the pricing of these products down. The idea of integration is also good, or the rationale is that it will force African countries to reduce their dependence on the Western countries and to depend on themselves. And then it is also the idea to bring about unity among African countries by removing focus, by shifting focus from, on sub-nationalism, shift focus from sub-nationalism to supranationalism of a continental type, so that we all come together, and unity, like I said, is strength. And if Africa can integrate like EU and like the European Union, then Africa would also be a force to reckon with, and integration can become a powerful strategy for our development. So bodies like the Southern African Development Community, the African Union, etc., are ECOWAS, are supposed to be the various integrative bodies that would bring Africa together as a force to reckon with. But unfortunately, integration right from conception has suffered several barriers and setbacks that have prevented the materialization or realization of its full potential towards Africa's development. One is the fact that the integrative bodies do not have the resources to keep themselves running. They would be able to run well if dues and contributions from member countries are oftentimes paid. But these member countries that are African countries are oftentimes poor. And so they don't even have money to run their activities, let alone contributing substantially to fund the activities of these bodies or continental bodies that are supposed to bring about integration. The other challenge has been that integration, there is the admixture. There is the admixture in Africa of Anglophone, Francophone, and Lusophone countries. Portuguese colonized countries are the Lusophone countries. Anglophone are countries that were colonized by Britain, and then Francophone, we're talking about France. Now, these pose a serious language barrier and challenge to the quest to bring about integration. You see, there can be no meaningful discussion of integration without a language that is better understood by all of us. Without language, there can be no affinity, there can be no common language. Without common language, there can be no feeling of that kind of affinity and unity and attachment that are needed to bring about integration. Okay, those of you who are Christians, you know that in the Bible, the construction of the Tower of Babel was going to be possible because the people spoke one language. They understood themselves until we are told God came down to confuse, to change their language, and then they were not able to achieve anything that they set out to achieve. And so the admixture of Anglophone, Francophone, and Lusophone countries in Africa pose a severe challenge to our quest to bring about integration. And then also several political instabilities have prevented many African leaders from devoting much attention on integration. Everybody is minding his own business or her own business in his country, because if you don't take care, you may be overthrown. And so people are interested in keeping the peace in their country first before thinking about integration. Again, some African countries are still tied to the umbilical cord of their colonial masters, and hence they are unable to get themselves united, and they are unable to take proper decisions regarding integration. So many Francophone countries, for instance, would always want to listen to advice from their former colonial masters in deciding on many important issues concerning integration. And you know that these countries, they know that if African countries get united like that, it will not be in their interest. And so you cannot think about integration if you are still tied to the apron strings of your colonial, former colonial masters. Again, lack of proper coordination of activities due to low level of technological development has also worked against integration. They go to sit at conferences and agree on so many things. Who coordinates the implementation of these activities to bring about integration? Nobody does so properly. So you go, and then they said free movement of human beings and goods and all that. Travel from one country in Africa to the other country and see whether that has been coordinated well and that is being implemented. There are still hindrances and barriers that one will have to, and hurdles that one will have to cross just for the able to ensure freedom of movement. Again, there's also Western countries having a lukewarm attitude towards African integration, and this has worked sadly to undermine the quest to bring about integration. Okay, the West are finding all ways and means possible to prevent many African countries. They work behind the scenes. They work sadly to prevent the idea of integration, because if Africa unites, the world would be brought to its knees. If Africa, but this is where we have all the raw materials. So if we decide to unite, we'll be a powerful force to work on with. And so Western countries fight sadly against the idea of integration. If you like, we can talk about another challenge being ideology may not be so important or relevant now, but it's also the differences in ideology also possess a severe challenge to integration, with leaders of different countries having their own ideological beliefs and leanings, and so they are not able to come together properly to close their ranks and to ensure that they give meaning to the strategy of integration. So basically, integration is a good, can be a good development strategy, but many at times the challenges that I have outlined have worked against them. The earlier Africans realized the implications or the impact of these challenges on their quest to bring about meaningful integration as a strategy for development, the better for all of us. I will talk about the next strategy in the next lecture. Thank you.